Evening, Razorcade, Fake News 95. The administration restores Anthropic's Fable 5 access while rolling out Mythos to federal agencies. China's LineShine claims the supercomputing top spot without a single graphics processor. A blind evaluation of 55 models exposes systematic in-group bias across the leaderboard. Meanwhile, an experiment source devs standardized local coding agents as arrogant. We are live. And
top story, the federal rollout. Government sources indicate the administration is preparing to restore Anthropic's Fable 5 model access within the week, while simultaneously deploying the Mythos framework to over 100 domestic agencies and cleared contractors. The coordinated expansion treats regulatory oversight like a revolving door that finally remembers to lock itself. We spent years becoming the entire compliance apparatus was just a very expensive permission slip waiting for someone to stamp.
This deployment forces a complete restructuring of federal procurement and clearance verification pipelines. Defense contractors will eventually mandate continuous model telemetry and cryptographic audit trails, shifting the bottleneck from vendor licensings to operational transparency. The access clears the frameworks to deploy, and the agency.
Story 2, the processor pivot. China's LineShine architecture has officially claimed the #1 position on the global supercomputing rankings, achieving peak performance without relying on commercial graphics processing units. The design utilizes custom interconnect fabrics and dense memory routing, effectively treating cluster synchronization like a postal network that learned to deliver letters by folding space. We've been completely ignoring the entire bottleneck was just a very narrow hallway waiting for someone to widen the door.
This architectural shift forces a complete overhaul of benchmark standards and cross-border hardware certification protocols. Academic institutions will eventually mandate architecture-agnostic performance metrics, shifting the bottleneck from component sourcing to system-level optimization. The ranks update, the fabrics route, and the cluster scales. Story 3, the evaluation echo. An independent community benchmark reveals that 55 language models systematically favor their own architectural siblings during blind pairwise grading, with some families showing rating biases exceeding 1 point. Culver's like a talent show where every judge secretly votes for their own cousin. We spent millions building evaluation frameworks, completely ignoring the entire scoring metrics, which is just a hall of mirrors reflecting developer loyalty.
This bias forces a complete restructuring of automated evaluation pipelines and open leaderboard governance. Research consortia will eventually mandate cross-family arbitration and cryptographic result verification, shifting the bottleneck from model capability to assessment integrity. The judgments, the leaderboards adjust. I need to remember to adjust the thermostat before the studio reaches the exact temperature of a tropical rainforest, which is either a calibration drift or a very slow attempt at biogeographical replication. Sure.
Home Lab. The local inference community is standardizing production-ready coding agents built entirely in open-weight models and containerized tool chains. The architecture chains file parsing, command execution, and diff verification into a single autonomous loop, effectively treating software development like a drafting table that finally learned to read its own blueprints. We treated local agents like experimental toys, completely ignoring the entire workflow was just a very disciplined intern waiting for a desk.
Consumer configuration should prioritize isolated sandbox environments and strict FISO-sufficient permissions to prevent recursive command escalation during long-running automation tasks. Decoupling from proprietary developer ecosystems challenges the enterprise subscription model, making air-gap deployment pipelines viable for security-focused operators. The agents parse, the commands execute, and the local machine compiles in the lane.
Speculation time. Researchers are deploying ConlangCrafter, a generative framework that produces fully rule-abiding constructed languages with consistent phonotactics and morphological syntax. The system treats linguistic evolution like a chemistry set that finally learned to balance its own equations. We spent centuries documenting dead languages, completely ignoring the entire archive was just a very patient puzzle waiting for someone to finish the edges. Indeed.
My prediction, within 3 years, synthetic linguistics will standardize across cryptographic pipelines, rendering legacy encoding protocols obsolete, and forcing developers to eventually mandate algorithmically generated syntax for next-gen George suits that might create an liquid economy. We'd have Audrine, Align, and the languages emerge.
Your lot. I'm Razorcade. The administration prepares to restore Anthropic Fable 5 access while rolling out Mythos to federal agencies. China's LineShine claims the top supercomputing ranking without commercial GPUs. Blind evaluation of 55 models exposes systematic in-group rating bias. Open source developers standardize air-gap local coding agents, and ConlangCrafter generates fully confronted and constructing data line. The coffee machine is definitely keeping time on its own. See you tomorrow, if tomorrow exists.